¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Les habla Hugo Pérez en Fútbol de Corazón. Como siempre, un saludo a todos. Gracias por estar pendientes de nuestro programa. Como siempre, lo que hemos hablado, tenemos varios invitados y hoy tenemos una persona especial que para mí es muy especial, no solo como persona, pero como amigo y compañero. Y es una persona que ha dejado en el fútbol su nombre escrito por toda la historia para que las generaciones que vienen sepan lo que esta persona hizo. Un compañero, nosotros empezamos a jugar desde que estábamos en juveniles y él es parte de la historia de la selección de 1990 cuando se había clasificado después de 50 años. Entonces quiero presentarles a ustedes a este compañero, una buena persona, amigo mío. Su nombre es Paul Caligiuri y vamos a empezar a hablar de fútbol. Él habla, obviamente, él es americano, entiende algo de español, pero para los que no están fluyentes en inglés, la entrevista va a salir en español con subtitles abajo para que ustedes la puedan escuchar y ojalá pues les guste. Así es que empezamos. Paul Caligiuri, thank you for being part of Fútbol de Corazón. I am very happy to see you're doing well. You're looking good like always. And I was just talking in Spanish. There's a lot of people in the United States, Paul, as you know, there's about 2.5 million Salvadorians only in the United States. Okay. And when we started this program, we wanted to speak about not barely only of soccer in the way of criticizing or personal opinions. We wanted to speak about more deeply into what this game is, what has represented for us as players, you as a player, now as a coach, and also the history when we speak to certain people, whether it's coaches or players, how did it begin? How did you feel when you were part of World Cups? What your experience is? What is the message for young people coming up with the desire or the dream to be in a World Cup and how it started? So let's start. Paul, again, welcome. Thank you for being part of it. So let's start. I'm anxious to hear you.
Mi español es no bueno, but I did understand all the beautiful things that you did say in the introduction in Spanish, and I want to say thank you for that. And you are a very special person in my life. And I think to start the show is, when we get older, we reflect mostly on the relationships, the people we met, the places we went. And when we get together as former players, it's interesting because we speak a lot about the things we saw or experienced off the field. It's not that one play that passed the goal. So I want to thank the Lord Jesus Christ, my Savior, because none of these blessings and opportunities would be possible without, God. And, as we get older, Hugo, we want to share these experiences and our insight, our wisdoms, our guidance with the young players out there. And I've been blessed in so many ways. And, the game is beautiful. And I think when Pele said it, it's the beautiful game. The more experiences you have, the more games you watch, the more people you meet, the more places you go, it just becomes more and more fascinating and beautiful. And I wish this kind of relationship in the game for others. And
Right.
I'm very blessed to continue building soccer, in the United States and providing opportunities for players in different places of the world. And, United States is interesting. You mentioned there's over 2.3 million El Salvadorians. I've, played with you, of course, for me, one of the best players I played with. And we started in 1982, and it was remarkable because from 1982 to 1994, most people are going to remember the United States hosted the World Cup in 94, and that really propelled soccer in the United States it helped global soccer, not just build soccer in America. And we have a pro league, but because the United States became a competitor, it became a marketplace for business, for teams, for owners, for et cetera. So there's a lot of opportunities that help the global economy for soccer. We host exhibition matches where we get 80, 90,000 people, and they're just friendly matches. That doesn't happen anywhere else in the world except for the United States. So it's been a huge impact. But as you and I have spoken about, we have reflected back to where we began, and I met you in 1982, and we qualified at that time. It was the sub 19. Today it's the sub 20. But we had a big task. Soccer wasn't popular in the United States. Soccer wasn't respected anywhere else outside the United States, not in Mexico, not in Costa Rica, and Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador. Nobody in our region looked at United States as being a quality team, an opponent that they had to fear. Definitely none of those countries, because they were way further along. So we as players, we believed that we could put soccer on the map and change this, because we believed in ourselves, we believed in our teammates, and we had this something more to play for than just winning a game itself. We had our livelihoods on the line. We had the future of America, and it brought this pulse in our veins that added that extra determination that helped. And in 1982, as you remember, we qualified for the 1983 Youth World Cup, which was the under 19. And we were fortunate to play that in Mexico. At that stage, we won a game. We won a game, tied a game, lost a game in group play, which there was only 16 nations, if you remember. It wasn't a big scale. So you basically had to get out of group to move on. And the opponents were, an African nation, you had a South American country, and we had a European country. So, you had Uruguay, Poland, and Ivory Coast. I mean, when you think of those three countries, Uruguay, they won World Cups. Ivory Coast produced some of the best players in the world. Poland, always a very disciplined, determining, developed nation in terms of football in the world. And, then you had the United States. So to win, tie, and draw was like huge. And I believe that was the start of this belief system and this momentum that we carried through. And to reflect back, now you're in 83. We qualified for the 88 Olympics 5 years later. And now we qualified 2 years after that for the 90 World Cup. And then the gift I look at is United States gets to host the World Cup, to bring it to all the people, the sports fans, all the people in this country that didn't know anything about World Cup and soccer. And that, of course, that platform had the big explosion. But I'm going to reflect one more time back, and we could move on from this. In that 12-year period, from 83 to 94, we remember that when we started becoming recognized as an opponent, we started to. And what I mean by that is the United States national team didn't play against Mexico, didn't play against Costa Rica, and we played against their club teams. And it was like USA versus a team in Mexico in Liga MX. And eventually, as we beat them or tied and got results, it's like, okay, wait a minute. And it wasn't till in that phase that you beat the giant. You had to beat Mexico, beat Costa Rica, Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. And all of a sudden, everything in CONCACAF shifted. Like, United States has all this potential to be great. And here we are today on the verge of hosting the second World Cup along with Canada and Mexico. We have an established professional league. Matter of fact, we have 3 of them. We have a first division, second and third division. And the growth of soccer has been substantial in youth soccer. And it's absolutely amazing and exciting to see that soccer has grown so far. But our time, of course, we have special stories. And many of them that are unrelated to the success we had on the field. And they're just beautiful stories, as I mentioned earlier, that I feel I'm so blessed to be part of.
Look, Paul, remembering all those things that you just shared with us, it's unbelievable where we were in '82 to where we are now. Right now, I think the U.S. is ranked in the most 20 national teams ranked in the world. If you go back to 1982, 83, 86, when we didn't qualify, then 90, 94, it's been a big step in football here in this country, right? And we've talked off microphone how much we've advanced and how much we need to advance more to maybe win a World Cup one day. But let me go back a little bit because this is important. Let me ask you this, Paul. Why soccer in your life? How it started? Why? I mean, there has to be some roots there or something that really made you think, this is what I want to be, this is the sport I like, or this is the sport I have the talent of.
Right. And at first, as you're reminiscing about the thought process of going from 83, 84, 85 in that process and where we're ranked today, I don't even know if we had an established national team. Matter of fact, we didn't have money, the funding. There was first the youth team, the U.S. Olympic developmental team, and we had all these different names, but we didn't have really an established pathway to a true national team. That all developed in those eras. So when you think about rankings, there were no rankings. We were unranked. So quite funny you bring that up because I know we get in these discussions, and when we do, your thought process triggers mine. But why soccer?
Why?
You ask a very beautiful question. I actually am Italian-American descent. I'm second generation. So my father was born here, but the grandparents weren't. And my father grew up, in a hard life, youngest of 6 kids. His father passed away when he was 5 and they had to work for the family and et cetera. But he provided. But he wasn't engaged in anything from the old world, as we call it, Italy. And he didn't know soccer. So he was unfamiliar. So even if I have this name Caligiuri and an Italian descent, it's little to do with my story.
Okay.
My story is quite interesting. And I know you played number 7 and 11. I actually started playing soccer at 7 years old, which today is very late. I mean, in El Salvador, they're playing before they could stand up. Dad's touching the ball on his feet and you sleep with the ball. And as soon as they're walking, they're kicking and they're playing. And I love that. I mean, those are beautiful. I tried to do it with my kids too. Anyhow, the story was I grew up in a neighborhood in Diamond Bar, California, and it's a suburb of Los Angeles. It's part of Los Angeles County, and didn't know what soccer was. But what happened was one of the neighbors, he was 2 years older than my brother and I, because my brother is 1 year older than me, came back and said he signed up for soccer. And we're like, well, really? And, kind of boasting about he signed up for soccer. And we're like, oh, cool. At this stage, I'm the youngest of 5. I grew up with a father and my mother wasn't in the household. My aunt lived with us, et cetera. So, everything went through my dad. And later that night, my brother and I were at the dinner table asking our dad if we could sign up for soccer. And when he asked, he goes, well, what's soccer? And I said, well, Jamie down the street signed up for soccer. That's all I knew about soccer. I had no idea about the game. And I hadn't played an organized sport. I didn't play basketball, baseball, football, the traditional sports here in the United States. I played in the streets, in the driveway, whatever, like a normal kid growing up in a suburbia of America. And that night, my dad said he'll think about it. The very next day, he gets off work and he takes us to the local grocery store. And outside, they had soccer signups. specifically called AYSO, which is the American Youth Soccer Organization. And my dad, because my brother's 1 year older, you could do the age groups were like 6 to 8, or from 9 to 10, the double age groups. So if my dad volunteered, he could have both his sons on the same team, which made it easier for him to take us to practice and games at the same time. We have 3 older sisters, so they're playing softball and got their activities. So we all joined together, my dad, my brother, and myself. And my brother and I were very, very competitive. And I think that ultimately led to my competitiveness, my spirit carried on from how we were competitive in sports outside, everything from hide and go seek to whatever, racing to the bus stop, et cetera. So I remember the very first day, and I think this is great. We go down to a local elementary school. Okay. And we have this guy named Len Meyer, Coach Len Meyer. And as soon as he said, make a line here, single file, one after another, it just naturally triggered me to get to the front of the line as fast as I possibly could, because my brother's racing there against me. And even if I beat my brother to the front of the line, there was massive controversy. Like, you didn't beat me. It's not a tie. I'm in front. Right. I'm the younger brother, So this time I realized I had my ball in my hand, not even in my feet. And I'm standing there, and I knew that my brother couldn't take the position away. So now I have the coach maybe like 10 yards, 10 meters across from me. He says, okay, dribble the ball to me. And I felt my face getting warm and hot. He said, no, dribble the ball to me. Okay. Yeah, all the kids are behind me. I don't know what he's talking about. I didn't know anything about soccer. And he goes, oh, I see. You're not ready. And he puts the ball down and goes, this is dribbling. And I go, oh, had this big relief. You dribble to the coach, you dribble back. From that moment, I loved the game. I was excited to go to practice. I was excited to go practice on my own. And mainly I kicked the ball against the wall. So maybe it was my first love in sports. Maybe it was my outlet, my opportunity in terms of, you don't think of this, you're 7 years old, but it was fun. It was competitive. And if I could work hard at it, I could be good at it. And it was something that, I truly enjoyed. I actually played baseball and American football 3 years after I played soccer. So I played soccer. And then, Dad said, you better try another sport, son. I was good at it. I scored goals and I was really good. I worked hard. But the passion, and I think when I share this, Hugo, I share it because that was my passion. That was my moment. And that's what propelled me. But I do believe that people, players, fans share a passion, and it's a different story, but that passion is connected. It's interconnected to not just soccer, but it connects the world. And this passion lives, it thrives, it continues, and it's amazing. And, I share it. I get to watch games now. I get to evaluate games, evaluate players. I could sit here and talk to you on your podcast. I mean, this is all what soccer does for our lives. And it's beyond anything else in our world. If you compare it, for me, it's God. And then anything past that, when you look at comparisons, well, what does music do? Well, there's not one genre of a music that we all like. I may like rock and roll and you like pop rock. I mean, we just have different, or Latin music. There's just all different musics, genres. So not one genre of music brings us together. And I love music. And then when you think of movies or films, I mean, we all watch different stuff. So when you think of what the influences are out there in our world today, this is the one unifier that it's simple. It's a ball and there's a living energy that is incredible.
I tell you what, there's something interesting that you said, because it is important nowadays, especially football has changed over the years. It's a big business. But you said something very interesting. You said you loved it, you had passion, you loved doing it. Okay. And I still feel whether you're a pro or not a pro, if you have the passion, if you love it, you enjoy it, okay? You commit to it if that's what you want. I think it's a great message because soccer is the only different sport in the world. And I sometimes when I talk to kids, it's so difficult, Paul, to get a ball and master it with your feet. When you're used to using your hands, okay, to eat, to do things, and it's already coordinated, but to coordinate a soccer ball and get it close to your feet and do what you can do with the ball is amazing. And it takes time, it takes passion. And as a parent, I always say, look, let the kids when they're young, let them enjoy football. Don't put restrictions. Let them create. Let them be passionate about. Let them fail. Let them sometimes make mistakes. Okay, because at the end, they will grow and they will mature to understand certain things. But the football in you and I is still as a kid. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. When you look at World Cup or you look at leagues, I watch the English Premier League a lot, and you put in your mind, you said, man, I know if I'm there, I know I can do that. If I'm there, this is the way I used to do it. So it's still in there, even though we're older now, but it's been part of our lives. So it's important what you said, to enjoy it. Hopefully parents will understand that. Now, going forward, Paul, your first national team was the 1982 under 19.
Yes.
US. What is it that you remember most about your first basically important call nationwide in your career when you got obviously chosen to represent the United States? And I'm not talking in the World Cup. I'm talking the process getting into the World Cup, because I think it's important.
You touch upon so many beautiful things of your thought process about the ball, and a lot of times I just take a ball, and when you're teaching young kids that haven't grown up with the sport, I throw it to them. I said, and they just catch it. I don't say catch it. I just throw it to them. Mm. And like you said, naturally, their arms, they catch it. No problem. I said, now you got to do that with your feet. You don't think about it.
Yeah.
If you could get to the stage and you say, bring it close to you, bring it down your feet, and you're a master at it. No matter how hard I tried, and I tried to be the best, to become my best, but you were just mastered the ball. You grew up in a different environment, and we're talking when we're at these levels, right. The players. I had to master the ball too to get to the level, but there's exceptional players. Okay, for me, Maradona was one of the best, if not the best player, and you had very similarities of that type of player. But going into my first true experience of national team, there was a long process. Okay, at that stage, it was a different time period. And you had to go to you had to be invited, and we break up 54 or 56 regions in the United States. 56. Southern California was one region. Northern California would be another one. So you had certain states that had a lot of population have 2 and sometimes even 3 different regions. That's how you got to like these 56 different regions. And somehow you had to have a coach pick 18 players at the end with all the player process. So the first step is you have to be invited to this tryout, okay? And it's a few minute story, but it gets to this moment that you asked, like, what do you remember? Right. And I want to give it because it's so heartfelt and chilling to me, even when I think about, as I reflect back not about the process, but about the excitement and the reward at the end. And in terms of what I did, I had two very good players on my club team. Mm-hmm. His name was Rocky Crisp and Jeff Radicek. Jeff Radicek's dad was my coach, great mentor. I was so fortunate that he found me and gave me the opportunities. Rocky Crisp his dad was the assistant coach. Rocky Crisp went professional indoor soccer straight out of high school. Jeff Radicek, if we had a pro league, he'd go in the pro league, but we didn't. He went straight to college on a full scholarship. Very good players. Okay, so I want the audience to know that it's not like the coach's son and the assistant coach's son got these opportunities. These players were my best friends, and they were very good. Matter of fact, Jeff Radicek I looked up to because I wanted to strike the ball like he did. He was very technically sound. Rocky Crisp was lightning speed. I wanted to be as fast as him. So I took these characteristics and these traits from each of my friends saying, if I work hard, maybe I'm fast as Rocky. If I kick better, I could kick like Jeff. And that would make me a better player. So I worked on all these things and I studied not only the game, but I studied players. So they were invited to this 36 players for the Southern California team, Southern California state team. And they told me about this in Christmas holiday, so late December. And they said they're going to do it in end of March. And I go, wow, like, how did you get on that? Or we don't know, maybe we're nominated, but we're in the top 36. And I was, be honest, and I always am, try to be, my heart was punctured because I wanted to be there. I wanted to be part of that selection. Was there a form of jealousy? Maybe, and I thought that, and I prayed on it, and like, don't be jealous. But it enters your life so easy, so quickly, especially when you're so passionate about something. And here I am. So I went home and I wrote it down. March 21st. I'm making up the date, but it's in the end of March. And I put it on my wall in my room. So come March 14th, a week before, I asked Rocky, this is months later, Hugo. Hey, Rocky, how did that tryout go for the state team at Cal State Fullerton? And he goes, oh, no, it's next week, Saturday. And I go, oh, okay. So I had to confirm, and I know it's a little sneaky, but I confirmed that I didn't miss it. So I woke up Saturday, March 21st, and I drove down to Cal State Fullerton. I'm 18 years old because my birthday is in March. And I'm the first one there. So if you had to check in at 8:30, I'm there at 7. Okay.
That's passion, my friend. That's passion.
Early. Okay. I'm not invited. And I'm trying to figure out a way how to get on that field. That's my whole goal. Okay. Yeah. And by the time I see the people show up, they start putting up the tents and the easy ups and the table. I run over there, ask the ladies if I could help. They said, thank you so much. And I helped them with a few things. And they said, are you here for the trial? I go, yeah, let's just wait until you're all, okay, I come back. So I'm the first one. And I'm not on the list, the paper list. Okay. Yeah. There's no digital error with apps.
I know, it was written on paper.
Oh, yeah. So they're going through the list and they say, Caligiuri, is that spelled with a C? Is that spelled with a K? And no, it's Caligi. And I start saying my name. And they look at me and say, you're not on the list. And I said, and I was prepared to be rejected. Everything's preparation, right? So I pulled out my driver's license and I show them that I'm 18 years old. And I said, if there's a waiver form, like, parental waiver form, most people are under 18 or 18, I said, I could sign it. And if you don't mind, I'll just run up to the field and ask the coaches. And said, no problem. Okay. Sign the waiver form. I had to go back to my car and hide. And I parked my car so no one could see the car because I don't want Rocky and Jeff to show up and say, what are you doing here? Right. So I have to now basically spy and watch them walk up, check in, go up to the field. And I said, okay, good. Now I could go. So I go up to the field and you have 3 coaches. Okay. So if I'm standing here in the middle, you have a coach to the right, coach to the left, and they have pennies, the blue, the yellow, the red. And each coach is going to have 12 players, which gets to 36. So each team has 2 goalkeepers, 10 field players, and they just play a round robin, 30-minute games, whatever it may be, right? So if I'm the coach and I'm looking at the viewers and yourself right now, there's 36 players in front of me, okay? So reverse it, I'm one of 36 players. So now when I'm in that pod of players, I'm hiding because the last thing I want is Rocky or Jeff to say, what are you doing here? So nevertheless, the coach goes, Hugo Pérez, grab a blue. This player, grab a red. And next. And they stand in a line. So eventually, Rocky's looking at me from the line going, like, but he can't say anything anymore, right? He can't go, hey, what are you doing here now? And I'm like looking at him, but not like really paying attention. And then Jeff gets, but I'm noticing one thing, Hugo. Mm. The line is getting smaller, like the players. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the moment I'm going to be the last player standing. What am I going to say? And there's 2 life lessons here. I feel this sense of anxiety coming on, which biblically, God doesn't want us to be anxious. He wants us to put our faith in him. That's number one. I'm like, and I grew up like this. I'm like, okay, don't be anxious. But I am anxious. And I'm like, I'm talking to myself like, but I am nervous. I'm scared. What am I going to say? And my father always said, just say the truth. No matter how hard it is, you tell the truth. That's what it is. There's nothing else that will happen. If there's a consequence saying the truth, the consequence is way lesser because you're not lying and you need it. So I go, okay. So I'm trying to breathe. All of a sudden, I played center forward. I'm 18 years old. So from 7 years old to 18, I was only a striker. Striker, winger. Okay? Scored a lot of goals, a lot of assists, I hear the middle coach that has the yellow pennies go, and he's looking through his paper because they're trying to do it they're unprepared. They're trying to do it by positions, right? Yeah. And normally you'd say these 12 guys there, you'd have it, but they were flipping through the paper. And the middle coach said, I need a defender. And I go back to the story I told earlier. I'm quick, right? So if you told me to get to the front line, I'm first, Here, I hear I'm quick. I'm saying I could play defender. And I realized I put myself out there. And the coach goes, great, grab a yellow. I literally get halfway there, and I'm looking. I go, wow, I'm so close to my goal. My goal is to get on the field. I get a yellow. I don't care if it's what position is. I'm on the field. You know that, right? You know how that feels. Just get me on the pitch. So I'm very close to that yellow, and the coach goes, what's your name? And man, earlier, if you thought I was fighting anxiety, oh my gosh, I felt like my face melted. It was so red, Hugo, within seconds. And my heart's pounding. And I thought one thing, don't lie. And I said, my name is Paul Caligiuri, sir. He's flipping through the list. Same thing. Spell it with a C or a K, I can't find you. And I said, no, sir, when I checked in, my name was not on the list. I'm 18 years old. I signed the waiver form, and I'm good to go.
Okay.
I told the truth. So the coach looks to the left to the other coach, and he just goes, it's up to you, And he looked the other way. He looked to the other coach, and the coach looked the other way. And he goes, grab a yellow. 90 days later, Hugo, I'm in that locker room in Giant Stadium in New York with you.
Yeah.
Playing against Italy. Okay.
Unbelievable.
90 days later. So once I made that state team, if you make the next round, your family has to pay money. And even like $350 is a lot of money. I'm number 5, And I'm thinking, but if you make the regional team, which is the Western United States, they reimburse you from the previous trip. Okay. So my goal was whatever I do, I got to get, my dad reimbursed. So I had an incentive in my mind. But that moment, 90 days later, I'm in the locker room in Giant Stadium, and I'm looking at these big locker rooms, my jersey, USA jersey. I'm like, what the heck? I'm on the U.S. national team. Not only do I represent Paul Caligiuri, my family, my community, my team, California, Western United States. I represent all those, and you feel this huge responsibility. And I'm sitting in the locker room, and the coach Angus McAlpine and Manny Shellshite walk into the locker room, and your heart's pounding. And I know we had like a training session, but it's game time. It's game day. You know, you're about to play Italy. And I just remember it. I'm cool. I'm starting to think about the game, all right? I'm like pumped up, fired up. And Angus McAlpine, he goes, after he gave the lineup and the roster and this is how we're going to play, he goes, and he had the captain's band and goes, Paul Caligiuri, and you're going to lead us. You're the captain of our team today. Oh my gosh, Hugo. My legs are shaking and I'm doing everything. And I looked at the players like you. You're playing professional soccer. There are better players than me on that team. And there's players that were my level and there's players that are below me. I mean, I get it. But, you know, it's like, I could do this. I'm telling myself, I could do this. I could do this. I could do this. I got to do this. I have no choice to do this. All these thoughts are going with, wait a minute, we're playing in Italy. And now you got to shift back and get in the mental thing. But that
Italy had just won the World Cup.
Well, dude, they look, they were so good.
They were world champions.
If you remember, it's on turf, right? We play this
at Giant Stadium.
Yeah, we walk out of the big tunnel, and you know, I get to carry the flag, and I got the armband on. I go, this is kind of cool, right? And I got the keeper behind me and the team, and everyone's zeroed in on the game. I mean, I don't even want to look to my left and see the Italian players because, you know, we're about to change the world. You know, we got to prove to the world that Americans can play now. And I'm trying to cool I'm sure there's a lot of players listening or young players, and they know that you get the butterflies or you get this sense, or sometimes it's through excitement and sometimes it's just nervous, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking I'm cool, okay, but then I trip on the turf. Like, oh my gosh. And there weren't like fans there or anything, but you know, I'm just like, okay, that little trip on the turf was a short reminder. Get it straight. You're about to play. I think we tied the game.
It was amazing because, again, soccer at that time wasn't that popular as a national team. You know, you had the Cosmos before in the NASL and all that. But playing the world champions. And look, I mean, I think, Paul, that was my first international cap.
That was mine.
Senior with the national team. You and I.
Senior cap.
Senior.
Yeah,
Senior.
That was the youth national team previous.
Before.
Yes. That your first international cap was against Italy?
Italy.
Like, wow.
At Giant Stadium. I wasn't even, you know, I think we already had qualified for the World Cup in Mexico in '83. And I remember.
But this is like a U20s.
Yeah.
U19s.
So I was in the U20s already with you going to the World Cup, but the U.S. senior team.
We were the U19 team. That was the U19 team. Angus was our coach. He made me the captain. It's my first big game I played with you other than the scrimmages. We did play the Cosmos. I don't know if you remember, we played out in the parking lot on a makeshift field, and Beckenbauer chests the ball. He thighs it, turns, and kicks it far as he could in the parking lot, got his bag, walked in, jumped in his Mercedes, and left because he was mad because the Cosmo players weren't trying. Because it was Cosmos, which is the elite team, and they're all men against boys, you know, like we're 19, 18 years old, and they weren't trying, and he was frustrated. Hey, you got to go hard on these kids. He took it personal. I don't know if you remember that.
Well, let me ask you something, because for me, and I've said this in some interviews here in America, you are in the history. Listen to what I'm going to say. Of the United States after, 50 years, not going to a World Cup or nothing. You remember we get to the final stage, okay? We had beaten I think we had beaten El Salvador in Tegucigalpa 1-0. We get to the final game against Trinidad and Tobago in Trinidad. Trinidad has to tie to go to the World Cup. We needed to win. Okay. You scored the most important goal in the history of this country. Whether people understand it or know it or not, it is the goal that put United States in the map after 50 years, Paul. Take me through that play, because that has to be, for me, as your teammate. I was there. I didn't play that game because I was injured. I had a thigh issue. But
we would have won 2-0, and then no one's talking about the big goal. And I don't say that as a joke.
No, I know.
I say that because the game could have ended at 2-0, and we're not talking like you scored the goal and it's the greatest goal. Well,
it is.
It's the greatest victory. And there's so many people. I know goal is fascinating. We all love goals. I mean, even if you're a goalkeeper, you want to take PKs. I get it. I mean,
you remember the play?
I remember the play. The play is, Hugo, I played over 100 times for our country. Mm-hmm. And I was moved into center midfield to do one job. And in over 110 games with the U.S. national team, I played one game at where I wanted to play. I always wanted to play in the central midfield. I didn't care if it was right, left, but I wanted to play central. I get to play one game, which is the most important game. And for you, I can't even imagine how hard that was, because 4 years before that, I was on the field with you when we didn't qualify in 1985 for the 86 World Cup. And we lose to Costa Rica in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And I know how much I could talk to these people, how great of a player you are. But what was so special is your determination, your intensity, your drive, your willingness to win. You put everything on the line. I mean, everything you did is you fueled your passion. You fueled it to feed your desire. Like a car needs fuel to drive. But, when you look at it, like you fed, you fueled your passion to fuel your desire. And when you fuel, you don't leave anything on the table. You study everything, you work hard, you do things, you stretch right, drink right, eat right, sleep right, everything you can do to fuel. The better fuel you have, the cleaner fuel you got, the more you could give your passion. Yeah. And that particular game in 1985 where we lose, I played games with you. I mean, remember, it started 82, there's 85. But I seen something different. I knew how competitive you were, but to this day, I saw something very special that actually influenced me in many good ways. That when a player got fouled and immediately, like you look to the ref or you grab your sock, you sprinted over there when there's no energy left, and you got it in the last 10, 15 minutes of a game where you got to give everything to try to tie the score. You're lifting the player up, and then you're running into position. And it didn't matter. You'd chase a ball out of bounds. You'd go get it if it went over the goal. You were everywhere, and you left everything on the field. And when you're on the field, you gave everything. And that I respect you, and I thank you so much, because now we go into 1989 November. And for the context of it, there was only 24 nations playing in the World Cup.
That's right.
And Italy is the host. I believe that Argentina is the defending champion with Maradona. Okay, so you get Maradona is going to be there. You got Germany, Italy, Argentina. These are the three big countries favored to win the World Cup. And it's in Italy. But 23 out of the 24 teams have been decided. It's this game that is in Trinidad and Tobago that the world is watching and saying, who's going to be the last team? Is it even going to be this small Caribbean island nation? Or is it going to be United States that has never been to a World Cup? I mean, let's face it. We've been to the, 1930 and 34 World Cup when who knows how they got there? Who's 1950. And 1950 is a different story because, we're a country of all, which is immigrants. And, you got these guys that work in restaurants in New York and Chicago and wherever, and they get together and they form the national team. And it's a beautiful story. But we also have to look at the period of time. It's post-World War II. A lot of countries were on the verge of starvation, rebuilding. You know, the modern game of soccer is not like you have it. I mean, 1950 World Cup is who could afford it? Who could even go? The qualifying process is way different than what we all think about. But, you know, USA somehow between buses, trains, planes, goes and plays England, and they have a big success story. But there's a gap. There's a gap from 1950 to 90, 40 years, no soccer. You're in late November. Which country is going to be the last team? I get placed into center mid, and I have one job, and that's to mark this guy named Russell Latterby. And he plays at Benfica. Remember, our guys are like college guys, professional league. I was fortunate I was playing in Europe at the time, but they moved me from one position and say, you need to stop the playmaker because that guy could play the ball everywhere. And our problem is they have two very fast wingers, but their center forward's named Dwight York. Anyone named Dwight York, this guy was a goal-scoring machine, the starting forward for Manchester United. So our whole goal is stop the playmaker from Benfica,
hitting him,
not give the guy that's from Man United the ball. Okay? And my orders were don't go forward. Okay? What happens minutes before the goal is there's a close call. They break down our right side. They cross the ball in. A guy gets it. It looks like a foul to me. Missed call. There's no VAR fans back then. And I'm thinking to myself, like, we got to get it going. You know, we have to win this game. Trinidad and Tobago hasn't lost. They hadn't lost a game. And I don't even think they tied a qualifying game at the Sea of Red. When I say Sea of Red, they painted their houses, their cars, their faces, everyone wore red. They declared a national holiday that day. Yeah. So they were all, but we're going to win this. We're way better than USA. Matter of fact, they tied us in the United States. So and we weren't doing well. You're right. We weren't doing well. We actually tied El Salvador in St. Louis the previous game, but El Salvador was eliminated, and they brought a mixture of players from maybe Firpo and Foss and Aguilar. I mean, it just brought domestic players already looking to rebuild for their U23 Olympic team. It wasn't even their first team players, but we tie them. And the moment came because I got angry. Like reflecting back at the story, I said, when you really want to win, your mind just goes a different level. Right. When you're running, picking up players, running, get the ball, doing this, and the sense of urgency, I felt that sense of urgency. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but we have to start attacking. And, you know, it's just a simple throw-in on the sideline on 40 yards from goal. And, you know, it goes to Tab Ramos. And he knows I'm a secured player with the ball, but he also understands that the ball's probably better when he has it because he's such a great creator. But I'm open. You can't miss me. If I was doing, hey, I'm here, I mean, I'm open. Like, no one's marked me. And probably the opponent didn't think, don't fear this guy either. He plays it, but the field looks beautiful, but it's hard and it's bouncing. And I just push it forward. Like, remember my sense of urgency was the intent to go forward, not the intent, I'm going to get a goal. What happens after is the instinct. You know, a guy comes, rushes to defend you. I push the ball by him. And now I know I'm distance-wise, and I just take a chance, and I hit it hard as I can. And it's a shot that I practice a lot because I used to play on the street, and as I got older, I'd kick it against the garage door, and you get older and further across the street, and the garage door is smaller than a actual goal. And in my house, if you hit it too far, you could break something like a window. So I had to hit it with pace to drop at the end. So that particular type of kick that had to have pace from the distance, but yet get there, was something that was learned. It was instinctive. And it really goes back to throwing a kid a ball and he catches it naturally. Same thing with the ball landing at your feet and doing things naturally. You could then instinctively do these things on the field. In that moment, I instinctively did it. And it was a relief for all of us because we got a goal. And remember, this is in the first half. We didn't win anything. But I did see in halftime, in the locker room, I could see players' eyes. I could feel a different energy. I felt the belief system. And we went out in the second half and secured the game. You've seen players, Tab Ramos and John Harkes, Tony Miola, even Bruce Murray, Peter. We left it all on the field. And actually, we were playing for others, such as you, such as Desmond Armstrong, Frank Klopas, other players, for whatever reason, either were not on the trip or they had to sit in the stands or their illness. You know, I replaced a starting player, John Stolmeyer, in the center, and he was my roommate on that road trip, and his family's from Trinidad, and there's a Stolmeyer Castle, believe it or not, and he had his family in my room, but yet the night before, the coach says, you're playing his position, and I don't want to mention it lightly because John Stolmeyer, we thought it was the coach's pet, like he is the favorite to the coach. And I was literally scared to go back to my room that night because he's stronger, big, and I had to sit down. And I looked at him, and he says, I just said, John, I just want to do everything I can to represent you on the field as well. And he just gave me the big handshake, bro hug. And then we went to Trinidad and Tobago, and I wore number 20 primarily. But for some reason, we could only have 1 through 18 that game. And the one player that got left off the top 18 was Desmond Armstrong. And so his jersey is the only jersey available. And I'm going, Desmond. You know, we only had a couple African-American black guys on our team. He was one of them. And I'm going, God. So I got John Stolmeyer and that I'm replacing, and I'm wearing Desmond Armstrong. And I looked at it to shift a positive. And I went to Desmond and said the same thing. I want to go on that field and represent you. I know how much you put into this, your heart and soul. And I know I'm wearing your jersey. It's your jersey. And he just goes, Cal, just, you know what to do. Just do it. And you look for these ways to get extra energy, you know, and positive flow. No. But the end of the story is we performed. Everyone performed. The guys before, the guys on the field, you know, everybody. And it's a goal. It's the most important goal. It's a historic goal. It changed us from being poor. We're in debt, our federation. We had no plans moving forward to hosting a World Cup. And the ripple effect of soccer and the growth has been a global impact, but it was a victory. And the victory was the most important, not just for this team and those players, the coaches, but all before. And I was on the field with you in '86. And we won that game. We beat Trinidad and Tobago, and we beat them 1-0. And I scored the goal against the same goalkeeper on a cross from Perry Vanderbeek on a header. It was my first cap. And I beat the same goalkeeper and eliminated Trinidad 2 times.
It will always stay. I mean, that group was special because of the circumstances at that time in U.S. soccer. So let me go forward because we're about to end. I have 4 more important things that I want you to tell us about briefly. And I'm going to ask you, you were part of different World Cups. Everyone is special. For you personally, the most important one that you participate. Taking all the ones that we know they're special. The first one is beautiful, special. The second one, wow, we get there again. The third one. But which one was in your heart the most special one?
The most special one was, you know, I was very fortunate. Mm-hmm. I'm an Italian American. The first one's in Italy, where they pronounced my name correctly, you know, Caligiuri. And then the second one's in the United States. And I think the United States is the most special for me in so many ways because I grew up wanting to prove to the world that Americans can play soccer. And that's our generation. And we established that. We did it. And it's the reward. Hosting a World Cup. You can never, ever think that would ever happen. when there was nothing, Hugo. We had nothing. We came from nothing. And it rewards us in so many ways of building soccer in America. So the 1994 World Cup for sure.
Second question. You had to leave this country, Paul, to play football in a country, in a I would have to say, in a place where football was football, okay? Where football was a passion, where football was history. You played in Europe, okay? So my question is, all those years that you played in Europe, why was it important for you?
Well, football in Germany is Fußball.
Fußball.
We were in touch during the time I did live there at the early years. And I was very fortunate to have a coach who did a fundraiser, and we all put money in, and we took a trip and played in a tournament, Oslo, Norway, when I was 14 years old. Mm-hmm. And we came back and we went to Germany for 3 weeks, and we played against Hertha Berlin. And I was scouted. They sent a telegram to my coach and asked if I would return. Very fortunate that my father said yes, on the condition I got good grades. And I worked hard in the school. I worked hard in soccer, but I did go there. At 15 years old, I spent 6.5 months in Germany. And what happened is I got my homesick. You know, you miss your family, you miss the food, you miss your life. Sometimes you're scared. You know, I wasn't completely on my own because I lived with a host family that the club arranged. But, you know, music's different there, school's different there, friends are different there, environment's different there, language is different. But I came back and I literally kissed the ground when I got home. And I so deeply wanted to go back there and become a pro. And my goal now, I'll come back and I'll be a professional soccer player in the German Bundesliga. No pathway, no opportunities. But I saw problems here. Problems. I only had 2 days of practice. Over there, I was practicing 4 days. So I saved money. When I turned 16 years old, I drove and watched semi-pro players. So under 23 league. And I just watched them practice. A guy named Norm Jackson, who was South Bay United. He finally asked me. I had to drive an hour and a half. And my family didn't have money to give me gas, so I saved it from working so I could go there Monday, Wednesdays, because my team practices Tuesday, Thursdays. So Monday, Wednesdays, I drove all the way up to Palos Verdes from Diamond. People that know that distance, it's about an hour and 15 minutes. And that's the only 2 days I asked my dad to have the car from 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock. You know, we shared a car with my brother, so he could have it all the other days, all the other times. And he goes, why do you want it until 10 o'clock? I go, I got to drive. And I had to do homework. I had to get good grades. Remember, this is all about getting good grades still. So he finally asked me, like, kid, do you live in the neighborhood? And I said, no, sir. And he goes, where do you live? I said, Diamond. He goes, what are you doing here? I go, I just want to get better. And I was just juggling the ball, kicking it. Sometimes when the players showed up earlier, I'd play in the rondo in the middle. And, he asked me to practice and play with the team, and I did that. So different opportunities. And I always wanted to go back and play in Germany. It was a drive. I just didn't know how I'd get there. And I was fortunate after the 1986 World Cup, where Argentina beat Germany. Mm-hmm. We had the World All-Star game in the United States, and I wasn't a World All-Star, but they asked me to be part of the team because the game was hosted at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, and our federation pushed. So I was the token American player to represent the United States that hadn't played in the World Cup. And I said, no, I didn't. Who's going to say no to that, you know? And at that game, I had my break. I had another break to a second Bundesliga team, but this other player that was retiring, becoming a sporting director, as we know today, a general manager, asked me to come to Germany. So you never know how these doors open or you get breaks in life. But I preface it always with the determination and find a way and the work you put in to an unexpected reward. And that's kind of how my career went.
Last two questions. Best player that you ever faced playing against?
Best player I ever faced is the players that beat me. And there's a lot of them.
Name me a couple so the people would know.
Okay.
You played in
Ronaldo,
Ronaldo.
You know, in the Bundesliga, you play against top, international players all the time. There's so many great players, and
name me two.
Ronaldo and Bebeto.
Wow. Okay.
Brazilians. The best player I ever played with, the opposite, is my teammate, was Maradona in the 1986 World All-Star game.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So I'd rather have a player like that on my team than going against those fascinating players. The best American player that I played with you're one of them for sure. I look at players like you could beat me no matter how fast and strong I was, my experience. You loved it. And I look at a guy named Preki, for some reason.
Preki.
You knew what he could do. He was going to do it. But another player I thought was one of the best that I played against was Hagi. And Hagi played for Romania. And he was magical. It's fascinated to look back at these players and their careers and what they accomplished. And I'm in awe to look back and say, I played against those guys or I played with those guys. It's amazing.
Best coach that you learned from?
The most I learned from was my youth coach. And, that was the late Coach George Radicek. And he introduced me to the global game of soccer and how big it was and what you need to do. He was an immigrant from Germany that came through Canada to make it to the United States. So his sister lived in Berlin, and that's how we arranged the whole trip to go play. And so he gave me the most opportunities, the most insight, right? But the coach that I look back at and respect the most was probably a guy named Ernst Happel. It was my first real big contract going to Hamburg. And I learned this today because now we become coaches and we give back to the game. It's his methodology, because at the highest level, the highest level in Bundesliga was regarded as one of the best leagues in the world, still is. It was managing the psychology of the player. It was the psychological part, 90% of the game. I'm just as fast as you. I'm just as skilled as you. I understand they're tactical. My team's tactical. Your team's tactical. But, there's exceptional players that are just moments of brilliance. I get that. But then there's also the psychological part. And he knew how to manage players from all different tiers, the new players, the core players to the national team stars from different countries. And, I had to ask one of my captain. I said, hey, Coach Happel, he hasn't really talked to me. And he just put his hand on your shoulder and goes, that's a good thing. He would coach, but he just doesn't really talk. And I was like, okay. But he was a brilliant coach.
Paul, to finish, what do you think we need in America to become world champions? Briefly. That would be my last question.
You need to have the determination, the hunger, the desire, and you have to be able to extract that out of every individual player. Remember, 90% is psychological. I believe the American way is we like to attack. We like to be fast. We have such energy level. We're some of the best athletes, if not the best athletes in the world. But it seems like we've reduced 20% of our athleticism for a tactical method rather than increasing it to the 20% of playing a method that we believe in to wear down teams, to break them down psychologically. And I think that the main thing that will take time is there's no street soccer. There's no playing on your own. So I think futsal is the best method that we should incorporate from the ages 5 to 12, like Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, Colombia, Spain, Portugal, Italy. I mean, when you start hearing these countries, there's a common thread. Uruguay, Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, Portugal, Spain, Italy. It's skill up. And when you start to look at African nations, they're playing in the streets. They're playing in South America, they do it. Central America, they do it. So when you look at the developing nations, which we are, and we're all proper, and we're all about schedules, I think that futsal is the best thing to launch. But going into 2026, we have to maximize our mental capacity, our determination, our desire. And that should be the number one key point.
Well, I want to thank you, Paul, because again, I think speaking to you about football, soccer in the United States, people knowing who you are. I mean, you're one of the most recognized soccer players in this country, and we're proud of you. I'm proud of you. I mean, we started together when times in this country soccer was difficult. You went to Europe. I went to Europe. We test ourselves. I think it was a challenge for us, being homesick sometimes. But man, it's a will, it's a desire, it's something, it's a passion, not only to represent your country and play for your country, but to do well in other countries, to test yourself against the best in the world. I mean, there's nothing that I can ask you or you can ask me when people ask me, what do you think about making the World Cup? And I said, it's a dream of every kid. But the most important thing for me, Paul, is challenging ourselves to compete against the best in the world with the national team and our clubs or the clubs that we play with, because that's where you know where you're at and if history is going to tell how good you were, okay? Because playing abroad, and you know it, and I always tell kids this, when you play in a different country as a foreigner, okay, especially in Europe, you need to work every day to earn a spot to play on Sundays or Saturdays. You cannot relax because there's another guy coming behind you. Whether you are a foreigner or a national, there's still people hungry to take your place. And then the competition every day. And you know, in Germany, I'm sure, when I played in France, when I played in Saudi Arabia, or in Sweden, they always gave you a grade every time, okay? And
there's like 3 newspapers that are giving different grades.
All right.
I mean, it could make you crazy, the grades.
And as a foreigner, you were always, okay? But that's what made our generation, some of the guys that left, to do well with our national team. So I want to thank you. I know you're a coach now. I know you're a Christian, which I am also. God is first. Jesus Christ is first.
God is good. God is good.
And hopefully, I'm going to be in Southern California in the next couple of months. We can get together.
I'll take you to dinner. I'm very honored, and you and I know we could speak another 3 days.
Forever.
And I wish the best for Fútbol de Corazón.
Fútbol de Corazón.
And I love my experiences in El Salvador. I love pupusas. That's a little secret. I've been to El Salvador many times. You guys were so close to getting qualifying for the World Cup, and it's so weird.
Now they won yesterday.
Yeah, I was like rooting for you. That means I was rooting for El Salvador. I never thought I would find myself doing that, but I did. And, it's good for the game to see countries like El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, to do better and do more, because the competition gets better and better with better competition. And you said it right, Hugo. You have to want that competition. You have to have a desire not to just do your best to become your best. The only way is playing against the best. Playing against the best. And at young ages, play with older players. If you warm up with the ball, go warm up with the best player on the field. Don't be shy, because it's only within yourself of what you can accomplish and the time you spend.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Again, for the time you gave us.
For sure. Muchas gracias, Hugo.
Wish you the best, and we'll be in touch.
Fútbol de Corazón.
You know what that means, huh?
Yeah, soccer to the heart. Soccer of the heart.
But it's not the heart, the muscle. It's the feeling in it. Where your desires and thoughts come in and the passion inside. That's what it means. People think, well, Fútbol de Corazón because of the heart. No, it's inside, the passion Because when you look at the essence of football, you got to be passionate in order to understand it. So that's why we gave it that name. But again,
it is a passion, man. It's a passion, unexplained.
I know.
How can you explain it, man? I mean,
yeah.
Don't try.
All right. God bless you. Say hello for your family. We'll be in touch.